Donald Trump is going to be debating Dr. Death, really, is what I'm calling him. He's deadly. He'll walk out on stage. He'll just wipe the floor with Donald Trump. I think that's what we should start saying, because we're setting expectations so low for him and so high for Donald Trump that unless it is, something where, it's body blow after body blow after body blow, and it's done perfectly right by Donald Trump, he'll appear to be the loser. I think that people's expectations now are just, he didn't fall asleep. He didn't fall asleep.
I think it is a real worry, because that is how people look at this situation in a lot of ways. I do think, though, it's hard to, I don't know if you can blame people who are saying these things and setting the expectations, because I think at the end of the day, those expectations are set by Joe Biden when he, waddles across a stage and can't get a sentence out. Like, I don't know how you hide it. I don't. Because
that's look, as bad as the State of the Union address actually was, it looked good because he had, he was like pounding on the desk, there's gotta stop. And he was awake and alert, and he could form sentences for most of it. And that is the expectation. And I think and I have no proof of this, but it's happened before with presidents, and you don't know about it, for 20 years or 60 years in FDR's case. They juiced him up. They'll go out and they'll give him, hey, is Dr. Nick around? Make him perform. And so he looks good he looks better. Right. Than what he really is, I think.
His biggest moments have not been his worst moments, which has been something that's, it's been, I guess, give them credit for whatever cocktail they've come up with.
Right.
I don't know. But I will say, though, what I'm saying is, I don't know if you can blame conservatives for pointing it out.
No,
it's like the setting of expectations is a rhetorical device, right? Like, you can put it out there and you can adjust that slightly, but I just think the American people see it and that's what they expect. So the fact that he exceeds those expectations, I don't know if that can be manipulated by a party's messaging on the other side. But it'll be interesting to watch, because he really does need. Biden took this debate and kind of threw it out there like, I'll do this with you anywhere, anytime. And Trump was like, okay. So he's taken on a bunch of weird rules. There's a bunch of strange stuff going on.
First of all, they're sitting down.
Yep.
There's no audience. You can't interrupt one another. I guess they're shutting Donald Trump's microphone off. All of the things that would help Donald Trump have been taken off the table. And now the press is saying, I don't know why Donald Trump would do this. Every rule is in Biden's favor. Yeah, because he knows that when it comes to inflation, cost of living, war, everything else, he doesn't have a lot to defend here. You know what I mean? He's going to have a hard time defending it if he was crystal clear even on meth. Whatever it took, give him meth, and he was just great and thought he could fly, he still would lose on the facts. And I think Donald Trump was like, all right, we'll take you. I don't care what your rules are. Fine.
Yeah, no, and he has to. He has to have it. To get in the same room with Biden in front of the American people is crucial for Donald Trump.
Yes.
And, he has to defend stuff like the border. We've talked about this for a while, going back now a couple of years. But we're now finding out that hundreds of thousands of people have come in through these additional legal pathways. It's something we talked about in the air at the time. To ease the quote unquote pressure at the border, the Biden administration went in there and said, basically, we'll fly direct into these cities and make appointments, and we won't count those as people coming into the country.
That's crazy.
And that's happened now with hundreds of thousands of people. The numbers just came out. They're really high, as you might expect. And these aren't people that we're counting when we're talking about how many people are crossing the border illegally or coming through with asylum and all those other things that we've been complaining about. This is all additional. They just took those people that would have been at the border and flew them into Cleveland and are like, well, that solved the problem at the border. Well, no, that didn't solve the problem at the border. Let me ask you this, though, going from a strategy perspective. I think this is fascinating, and I don't really understand it, so maybe you do. When you go into overtime of a football game, right, you have the coin toss. Coin toss, you have a choice as to what you want to do with that power. If you win the coin toss, you can either pick the end zone you're going to defend, or you can pick whether you get the ball first or second. And, the only time you really want to pick when you're talking about what end zone to defend is if maybe super windy conditions, you can make the argument, But generally speaking, you never pick that one. You pick whether you want to get the ball first or second, because that's the more important thing. So with this debate, they did a coin toss, and the decision was similar here. They had a choice. Joe Biden won the coin toss, so he was given a decision to make. Number one, you can pick which side of the stage you want to be on, left podium or right podium, or
no, that's the one I can guarantee you. No matter what the or is, he picked that one.
Or you could pick whether in closing statements you go first or you go last.
You go last.
You go last, right? Like the obvious choice here is you go last, right? You have the final word in front of the American people. If Donald Trump says some crazy thing about Hunter Biden at the last second in his closing statement, you'd have a chance to answer it. You'd have a chance to have the final word of the American people hear. What a big advantage that is, right? Joe Biden won the coin toss and then picked the right podium. And now Donald Trump will be making the final statement in the debate. Do you have any concept as to why he would do that?
No, let me throw another wrinkle into this. Joe Biden didn't make that decision. Okay, it wasn't like they called Joe up. Hey, we just won a coin toss, and here are your choices. I will take the right side. This wasn't done by him. This was done by most likely a committee or something. This is not just his senility. It's from the people who brought you the end of the Afghani war. I mean,
you think it's incompetent? Because my other thought was maybe they are thinking, and let me throw this out there. You got whatever drug cocktail they're pumping into this guy. He's going to be all pumped up for that first 45 minutes, but by the end, it's going to be a disaster. And the last thing that they want is the final vision of this debate to be Joe Biden going.
That is a possibility. That is a possibility. However, the closing statements, if you have the last word and he's going to be bad, you're suspecting that he's going to be like, all Donald Trump has to say for his closing statement is, look, I understand you for inflation. I understand what you're going through at the gas pump. I understand how you feel about your safety and the border. I understand how you feel about all these things. You just heard him. Is that the vigorous leader that's going to solve these problems? I mean, there's just no way. I would never let somebody have the last word in a debate. And especially if you think he's going to be like,
that's an incomprehensible one. I mean, does he, he thinks that highly of that's my good side. I want to be on the right side. What?
That is a possibility.
That's possible, I guess.
Hookers tell me all the time, this is my best side. I'm going to get that sex worker vote this time. I'm telling you.
That's a weird development, though. I cannot understand that at all. But I mean, we are less than a week away from this debate. Never happens this early. This is a very, very strange situation where it's happening in June. I think it was all these rules and the dates and all these things, I think, were initially designed for Trump to say no. To say, I'm going to make these rules, this request so ridiculous. I'll be the guy who said I wanted the debate. He'll be the guy that says no.
Absolutely. So that way he didn't have to debate later.
Yep.
Because I offered a debate. He wouldn't do it. And most people wouldn't have remembered that it was in June and everything else.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump had nowhere to go but to say yes. And I think he's eager. I think he can't wait. The chance to sit in front of Joe Biden. The only problem is I wish it was actually fair. We would have a drug test beforehand, and these guys would actually talk about things instead of just pounding on each other? Because Donald Trump would win. Anyone would win against this guy's record. Anyone would win.
Yeah. And there was a report from Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, who, again, is a left-wing journalist. So you can say maybe this is inaccurate. But she does seem to have a lot of sources inside the Trump camp. And her point was interesting and I think hopeful if you are someone who wants to see Joe Biden no longer be president, which was Trump has told confidants that he regretted cutting Biden off a lot in the first debate in 2020. And we pointed that out at the time that, like, you needed to give Biden,
let him hang himself.
Right. You needed to give him that space, and he didn't, because he was trying to be aggressive and trying to cut him off and say, you're lying about this, and which, he's going to have to do at times. But you also got to give Biden the room to look horrible and to look like he, all the things that we know he does on a daily basis. The American people need to see that. And he regretted that from the 2020 debate. If that report is true, it's good. I think he's being thoughtful about strategy here, which is really important. I mean, this is a really important day.
I think he is. I mean, Donald Trump, he knows television, and he just knows it.